Go to TAPgiles.com to learn dreams, engage my services, and support the channel.
So now we have up, down, left and right camera controls for this third person mode. So that's that. And then you want to know where you're aiming, where you're going to like shoot at. So I'm going to have, first I'll have a reticle so that we can actually test and know what we're pointing at. So that's just a case of having a text box, and I usually use UI sphere, make it white, no background, in the center, make it smaller, a bit transparent maybe. So now we have a reticle, and you'll probably want the reticle to always be like above and to the right of the actual hand you're looking at. We want to know what we're going to hit, what position we're going to hit, based on a laser scope going through the center of the camera, which is where the reticle will be positioned as well. So we just get a laser scope. Yeah, so it's just a line that it draws and then finds out if something hits it. So let's use the grid. Oh, and use that grid with L1 and triangle, and then put that down there. There's just a bug related to that, so just put this on the normal grid to put the laser scope in and make sure it's lined up, and then you can squiffy it again to where it was. So I think it, oh, let's close that. Rotate it and press triangle on this so that it uses the chip's position. Yeah, it needs to be generally higher, doesn't it? Okay, that'll do. And now that laser scope is pointing down that, so if I point at the corner of this, that's where that laser scope is going to go, and now it's hitting that corner. So you can make that laser scope as long as you want. It will just be kind of more processing heavy if it's really long, I guess, but probably won't make too much difference. And then I'd probably have a thing that I emit, which is the actual damage that happens. So this will just be a timeline, and we'll put a health modifier on it. And then I've used L1 and right to zoom into here, and I can see columns. These columns are frames of logic, where it processes all the logic in one frame. So that's kind of the smallest amount of time possible with where logic is concerned. So that's there. So it will be damaging stuff for one frame. And I'll put it into zone. I press triangle on the gizmo to reset it again to the parent object that it's in, the parent kind of gadget. So now it's centered around that timeline. You can make it pretty small. And then we'll emit. Oh yeah, we also want to destroy the timeline with the destroyer right after it's done its thing. So we do that, and then wire the affected object's output of the destroyer into the timeline itself. And now it will destroy itself. So if I play time, it destroys itself. And then we want to emit that at the point of the laser scope. So if I just do this, I want to tell it the location. So it has this input for scene space transform, which is the location, the position in other words, and the rotation and the scale. But if you just send it a position, then that will put it at the position. So I'll do that, the position. Oh yeah, we have to actually link it up to the object you want to emit. So where's that gone? So we click on the object to emit, and then we click on the object. It's not letting us do that, so let's group it up with something. So I usually use a, and I'll group that up, and I'll just make this unpowered, so nothing actually comes of it, it's just making it into a group. And I'll unhide, I'll turn off preview invisibility so we can see it. But now we have this whole group, so I'll have this affect the whole group, so the whole group is destroyed and it cleans up after itself. Oh yeah, I'll just to test, I'll turn that back on. I think that there. And this is the object that's being emitted. Oh, groups. Okay, so that at the end of that line there, that's actually where it thinks the center of this is. So we're just going to move this to the end of that. So there are ways of, like, if you put a large scaffolding object, like a big sculpt or something, then it will use the center of all the stuff in the group, which will be the sculpt. But as it's just a paint fleck, the center of a paint fleck is kind of ill-defined. It's like it doesn't tend to make any sense. Right, so it's emitting the stuff at the place that we're looking at. But we only want to do that while it's actually hitting something. If we're looking up in the sky, so if I do that, you can see it's appearing in the center of the scene, which is at 0, 0, 0, because the laser scope isn't sending out a position, it's just sending out nothing. So then it's defaulting to the center of the scene. So only if we're actually going to hit something, we'll turn on the emitter. So now when we're looking at something, it emits, and when we don't look at something, it doesn't emit. And also you want to only do this when you pull the trigger, right? So let's do, if you pull R2 more than some small amount, then, and you're hitting something with the laser scope, then it emits something. So now I'm holding R2 and it's emitting all the time, something like that. And if you want that to be does one shot, then you'll use a signal manipulator to turn that constant, you are now holding it beyond a certain point, into a pulse, which will say when you hold it, go from not holding it to enough to pulling it enough, then it will send a brief signal just once, and we'll set that to once mode. So now I'm like holding it, but it's only making one fleck. Yeah, so now if I put a few puppets in the scene, and I'll make it a different color. Like that. And I'll delete the follow so that it doesn't follow me around. Then I can shoot, and it died. The health manager should just destroy it with a destroyer. And it has no health. If you only want this stuff to happen while holding L2 to aim down the sights, then you can have a chip and just shove it all in there. Oh, let's not move the chip into itself. There we go. And then you can have one of those for the L2. So if you're holding it enough, then it'll activate that stuff. So now you can move around normally, and then you hold L2, and it kind of goes down the sights. Just decrease that, just make it damage small amount like that. And let's have a displayer for the current amount. Then each shot it gives a little bit of damage, and then it dies, and then that's about it. Yeah, one thing is the timer on that doesn't reset when you go into this mode. So if I put it pointing down and then I look up and then hold it again, it will start pointing down again. So what you could do is just like reset it to some known point. So like if I go, yeah, if I just want it like that, which is 0.5 seconds, then you can have like a, let's use a switch into a timeline, and I want to set this to 0.5 when the chip comes on. So I'll just put it at the beginning, set it to 0.5, have it keep changes so that it can like set to 0.5 and then be able to change after that, and then just put that in there. Put this to once mode so that when this chip turns on, that switch will send power. That timeline, because it's on once mode, it will play all the way through from the beginning, and that will happen every time this chip is turned on. So it will reset this timer to 0.5 seconds. So I'll look up. So it always goes back to the middle. If I look down, it goes back to the middle again. You can adjust how long it takes to zoom into it by adjusting this transition time, or have it cut to the new view if you prefer. Whoa! And there's like just infinite other things you can do to improve it and adjust it and all that kind of stuff.
Thanks for watching. I hope you learned something interesting. Go to patreon.com/TAPgiles to learn something new every day.